In our last class, we talked about the classification of algae, and of which we gave it the acronym cell. And we said that the C there means chlorophyce, and we said the E means aglenophyce, P means phyphyce, M means mesophyce or what you call cyanophyce. We have R, which is red, means rhodophyce, B means bacillophyce, and C, which is the last one, means cyanophyce or what you call mesophyce or cyanobacteria. Now, of this six classification, we said that the class chlorophyce has the longest order, and of which we gave it VC as the order of chlorophyce, and it has the longest order. Then we said the next one, which is aglenophyce, has an example called Eglena. Then we have phyphyce, which is the brown algae. Then we have the next one, which is mesophyce, and of which we said that we can call it blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Example is nostoc. Then we have the fifth group, which is rhodophyce, and we said we have Polysiphonia there. And the last, which is bacillophyce or what we call chrysophyce, which happens to be the glassy algae. Example there is diatom. Still in the last class, we talked about the order of chlorophyce, and we mentioned that there are six orders based on this acronym VisiSOX. And we said that the first one is volvocals, the next which is chlorococals, the next which is siphonals, which is number 3, the next which is holotricals, and we have conjugals, and the last one is the chlorophorals. Now we give examples of each of this order, and I explained how important it is for students to know this example as regards each of this order. Today we'll be looking at pigmentation. So in this class we'll be dealing with pigmentation. Now you need to understand that plants generally possess pigment, and so does algae. Now the pigment that algae possess is actually dependent on the class of algae you're actually dealing with. Now, which means that chlorophyce or pigments for chlorophyce is actually different from that of aglenophyce. That of aglenophyce is different from the pigments that you are going to pick for phyphyce. But then, for us to understand how to pick pigments rightly, we must understand that pigments or plant pigments are actually divided into two. The first is the non-accessory pigments, and the next is the accessory pigments. Now you need to understand that the accessory pigments are those pigments that trap light that shines on plants. Now, after trapping the light, they pass the light to the non-accessory pigments, which is basically chlorophyll A, for it to convert light energy trapped by the accessory pigment from light to chemical energy. So this means that the non-accessory pigment, which is basically chlorophyll A, is that converts light energy to chemical energy. Now for the accessory pigment is further divided into three. The first is chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll we're talking about is actually chlorophyll B, chlorophyll C, chlorophyll D, and chlorophyll E. And the next is phycobilin, and the last is carotenoid. Now note that phycobilin is subdivided into two. We have phycocyanin and phycoerythrin. And the last one we have is carotenoid, which is subdivided into two. We have the carotene, and the next is the xanthophylls. Okay, and for chlorophyll A tells us all, which means that all algae possess chlorophyll A. For chlorophyll B is basically an accessory pigment, but then chlorophyll B is for green algae. And for chlorophyll C are also accessory pigments, and it means brown. It means that they are for the brown algae, that's the phyphyces. Then we have chlorophyll D, which means red. The red algae are the rhodophyces. So which means that I'm expecting chlorophyll D to be part of the pigment of the rhodophyces. Then I have E. E is for Eglena, which means that Eglena must have chlorophyll E. Then the next is to go under phycobilin. Phycobilin still happens to be under the accessory pigment. But then don't forget that phycobilin is divided into phycocyanin and phycoerythrin. Now what I will do here is that I will have to follow the meaning. The meaning of phycocyanin. Cyanin means blue, which means that I will look for the blue-green algae. Okay, the blue-green algae are the ones that will possess the phycocyanin. That makes sense, right? So, which means that if I'm picking my pigment for blue-green algae, which are the cyanophyces, I must put phycocyanin. You can see we have phycocyanin as part of it. What do we have? Next, we have phycoerythrin. Phycoerythrin must feature as red, and the red algae are the rhodophyceae. So phycoerythrin must be part of their pigments, right? So we have the next, which is carotenoid. This word is carotenoid. For the carotenoid is divided into carotene and xanthophyll. Now, for the xanthophyll is divided into three. We have the mesoxanthin, we have the fucoxanthin, and we have the neoxanthin. Now, the mesoxanthin are blue, which means that because they are blue, they will work in line with this. Hence, for blue-green algae, we're going to have phycocyanin and we are going to have mesoxanthin. Then for fucoxanthin, we are having fucoxanthin's color to be brown, which means that the brown algae, that's the phyophyces, are going to work in line with chlorophyll C to make up the pigment for brown algae, which are the phyophyces. So for neoxanthin is yellowish in color. Now, for carotene as a classification under carotenoid, the alpha carotene is somehow yellowish, like yellow to orange color. This one is also yellowish, but yellowish to red kind of thing. It means that it is yellowish red. Now, let's practicalize something. Let's try to pick the pigment for each of this class of algae from the beginning or from the scratch and see how far we can go. So the first one we're dealing with is chlorophyll. So we're starting with chlorophyll first. So the first chlorophyll we have here is chlorophyll A, and chlorophyll A means all, which means that each of this class must have chlorophyll A. Then we have comma. Then chlorophyll C itself means green algae. So the next target is to have green. So green is B, chlorophyll B. So I'm checking it based on the meaning of the class. The next thing I have here is brown, red, and Iglena. So we don't have brown, red, or E in chlorophyll C. Why? Because chlorophyll C are green algae. That makes sense, right? Okay, since we are done with this chlorophyll, let's quickly move to phycobilin. Now, phycobilin, we have blue and we have red. Chlorophyces are green algae. Let's keep phycobilin. Then we have carotenoid. So for the classification carotenoid, we have carotene. Of course, you're seeing carotene here as part of the chlorophyce, but carotene is ranging from yellow to orange. This alpha carotene, and this one ranges from yellow to red, right? Skip that first. Let's forget about that first. I'll come back to it. Then I have xanthophyll. Xanthophyll is part of chlorophyce, but there is no justification for xanthophyll yet at present. But let's come back to it later. Then take iglenochrophyce. So basically, I know that Igelnophyceae is another class entirely. So I'm going to start all over again with chlorophyll A. So chlorophyll A is for all. I'll put chlorophyll A. Then I have B as green, C as brown, red as D, then E, which serve as Iglena, because Iglena belongs to Igelnophyceae. Then how did carotene and xanthophyll fall here? We'll come back to it. Then we have Phyophyceae. Phyophyceae are for the brown algae. So for brown algae, we have phyophycin. Let's start from the beginning all over again. For phyophycin, we have chlorophyll A. So A, comma. Then the next thing is we don't have green. Then we have brown. Brown, phyophycin are the brown algae. Okay, they are the brown algae. Because they are the brown algae, I'm picking C for it, which is this. Okay, then next I will go to phycobilin. There's nothing like brown there. Then I have carotenoid. Now under carotenoid, I have carotene. I won't pick anything here. Then can I go to xanthophyll? Xanthophyll, if you trace it down, you're going to have fucoxanthin as brown, right? In that sense, I have fucoxanthin. In short, it has been discovered that fucoxanthin is their major color. It's the dominant color there. Then I have the next thing is mesophyceae. Okay, so mesophyceae, how am I going to pick mesophyceae? Mesophyceae are the blue-green algae. I'm starting all over again. I'm starting with chlorophyll A. So if I have chlorophyll A, then comma, mesophyceae is telling me blue-green algae. So I'm going to pick green, which is B. So the next I have is phycobilin. So phycobilin, I have blue and I have red. So I'm going to pick blue because I'm dealing with blue-green algae. So I have phycobilin. Then I have a comma. Let me go to carotenoid and see if I can have blue color there. Then the blue color I have here is myoxanthine. So I'm going to put myoxanthine. Okay. Then the next thing I am supposed to have is, I think I'm done, right? Okay, how did carotene get into the space? I will explain that later. Then the last thing I'll be doing for you is the rhodophyceae. So I have the rhodophyceae, then you do bacillophyceae yourself. For rhodophyceae, what do I have? Chlorophyll A will certainly be there because it is all. Then chlorophyll D tells us red because rhodophyceae is for red. So I have chlorophyll D there. Okay, let me trace it down to this place and see phycobilin. I have red here. So it means that phycoerythine will be part of it. Erythine will be part of my pigment. Then under carotenoid, I have carotene, but the kind of carotene that can fall here is supposed to be beta carotene because beta is telling us yellow to red. Okay, then if I go under xanthophyll, I don't have anything like red there, so I can decide to stop here, right? But how is carotene falling into it? Let's start from chlorophyceae. So chlorophyceae, I have carotene there. Right? It has been discovered as this carotene, for instance, is not really dominant in chlorophyceae, but chlorophyceae need carotene for its physiological functions, which means that it's not because of its color, but it has it because green algae has some inner function that requires carotene. Does that make sense? So does xanthophylls too. So if you see it there, it is not actually because the plants have the color has a dominant color, but because it needs it for its own function. Then the same thing applicable to Iglenophyceae. So we have carotene and we have xanthophyll for it too. One assignment that I'm going to give to you is that you guys should do bacillophyceae yourself and see what you're going to get. See you in the next one.